Dresden Files, Book 3 by Jim Butcher Grave Peril, because all the titles are like a pun with like Halloween-y type vibes and stuff. It's fine. It's great for the series. So I really enjoyed book 1. I was super into it and was looking forward to book 2. As you all know, I was sorely disappointed by 2. I feel like it went from like a Mario gold star out of 10 to like a Mario poison mushroom cap out of 10. Why is it suddenly so bad, to the point where I double-checked the author remained the same? It did. And the fans kept promising me of this series. Book 3, though, book 3, there's a return to form. It's the Rocky moment. You're going to hear those horns. And I did, but it was like Rocky 3, you know? It was okay. This was the Mario grow power-up mushroom out of 10. Not back to the invincible star, but better. Better than the poison, you know? It's growing. Book 3, Grave Peril, managed to take some of the best aspects of the first and second book and combine them into a more horror-based, character-driven novel where you follow this wizard, detective, private investigator through his adventure. And it worked really well. Consultant? No, what is his job title? I'll remember it. And those increased horror elements with strong character, if you know anything about horror, is really the best setup you can have for that genre going forward. And then there's some good fantasy elements that creep on in as well, which work extraordinarily for the story's favor. I like the slight world building that happened here, something I feel like Jim Butcher had been neglecting till this point. He established a great tone, which gave him a world in some way, but now he's actually kind of having the guts to increase it in some fairly bold new directions in terms of world building, when it's like vampire societies or the Never Never, which these are all things, if you haven't read it, they're not spoilers, but they're concepts you'll be introduced with. And it worked. And that's when I really realized that I'm watching another author come into their own. He was a brand new author when he published his first Dresden Files book, and now he gets to come at it again and try, and he's working this world up to its full potential, and I'm really excited as a reader to see that. It's like going back and reading early Brandon Sanderson novels all the way up to his newest, greatest Stormlight one, and you get to see the increased, boldness of writing, the better style, the increased character elements, all these things work, and the same thing's happening here with Dresden Files. We're watching an author get better. It's fantastic. That being said, I did have problems, and some of them are fairly spoilery, so I'll keep them to the end of the video where I have the spoiler-filled section of the review. But just as a broad concept, so we have two famous wizards named Harry in pop culture, Harry Potter and Harry Dresden, and both of them, my biggest complaint is they solve 90% of their problems with just "'cause magic." This wasn't as bad in the first book. It started rearing its head in the second, and it's back real strong in the third book. There's many scenes where Harry's just, hair, and he can solve a problem, and as a reader, I just know that's gonna solve the scene. Every time something's introduced, it's like, he's just gonna fart, wand, done. That's not gonna really keep me invested in the suspense of the story. Granted, when you have wizard-based societies or characters and things like that, that's hard to avoid, and I'm hoping Jim Butcher tones it down a bit, but I feel like this book was his attempt to tone it down, because very mild spoiler that happens early on. It's not a huge deal, but Harry is powered down a little bit for this story. So I thought, it's going to be about more of him MacGyvering it in normal human ways to come out on top. But it became more about just MacGyver-y magic stuff. And if you combine those two elements, what can you not solve? At least a story like Harry Potter had some defined rules to follow within. While they were rubbery as hell, they were there. I don't know the rules for Harry yet. His power seems to fluctuate whenever it wants to, even while he's powered down. It's just occasionally, okay, plot needs me to do this, boop, and it happens. That was my biggest complaint, and why this is not at that book 1 status. Maybe if I go back to book 1 and reread it, this will be the same kind of problem. Maybe I just didn't spot it well enough before, but it was a bit of a drag. That being said, I really liked the villains of this story. I like that there were some elements brought in from previous books, some wider arcs that I was afraid were kind of just closed off and done, but were certainly revived for this story in a very natural feeling way. And to get much deeper into this, I do need to hop into spoilers. So for those of you who want a spoiler-free review, I will close it out by saying Dresden Files still has amazing potential. I enjoy watching an author get better. The first book, you could tell he had spent a ton of time conceptualizing from beginning to end, and once it started rolling, he's now having to start from scratch. And as a new author, that can be difficult. Starting a new story with this established world you have and picking it up and going forward is not the easiest thing to do, but he's doing it better and better. So by the time I eventually get, maybe a couple years from now, to book 10 or so, I can see this being a blast to dive into. Do recommend you pick it up. They're easy reads that you can do in like a weekend. If you're an avid reader like me, no problem. Your average person, maybe closer to a week, but yeah, no problem just going ahead and killing out a Dresden Files book. They're kind of campy. They have their darker moments. Overall, well executed. It's a wizard detective. How can you not enjoy that with like a 1930s cop drama coding and just modern character development levels? It's great, and I really enjoy it, especially seeing Jim Butcher step up the character building as he is in book 3, and relationship building as well, which is one of my previous complaints. But getting into the spoiler section of the review, and if you don't care and you want to go ahead and have things spoiled for you, that's fine, though this book does fairly heavily rely on plot elements being important, so if you want to go ahead and stick with that, I would recommend, if you haven't read it and you plan to, jump on off. But if you're still here, I'm mainly killing time, so people who are like away from their phone have time to exit out. But here we go, spoiler-filled section, let's go. In terms of strongest plotline, the biggest plotline was the best, and I like that. That was great. There's not too much I would change about the sequence of events that's kind of Harry v. vampires with the dream nightmare demon thing. It worked really well, and the, again, other wizard, all a nice combination. It was a little chaotic at times, but I feel like that was intentional, trying to confuse the reader, but it worked out nicely in the end. It did like a little, like, it was organized, and then it just exploded and came back together in a good arc that I enjoyed following. The weakest element to me was pretty much everything that happened around the godmother. To me, godmother's a very familial bond, so seeing the kind of sexual things between them. There were a lot of sexual stuff in this book because it's about vampires, and he's doing the classic vampires where they're like, all about the sex, all about the sex. So it became just like one of the main elements of the story. And of course, Harry's with this girl, Susan, and they're having a good relationship. I actually went from kind of being meh on it to, oh, he's going to end this relationship, whatever. Oh, this is the book, he's going to end it. Oh, no, he's not. That was a nice little surprise. But now maybe they aren't together. She's gone, but they're in love with each other thing. It became, I like that. I like that little character drama. It grounds Harry in a very human way. We've all been in relationships where we're pulled apart from the person we care about by circumstances we can't control, whether it's distance or just whatever. It's like having a good Ross and Rachel plot line in the middle of your detective vampire book. It worked. But coming back to the godmother and the Never Never, that's where the rules seem to get the wonkiest, and she as a character confuses me. I hope it is either clarified much more in the future or dropped altogether. I hope she's not just this in and out continual thing, because whenever the plot was moving or there was decent pacing, whenever the godmother came in, it felt like it just wrecked what was happening, especially her occasionally helping him with those shenanigan wizard moments that break him out of whatever problem he's in. I don't like that. I especially don't like having an outside character come in, so it's not even the character we're following solving the problem. It's some other character being like, hey, there's the water, do your thing with the water, it's fine. That's not good character stuff. It's going to make me not have faith that this character is going to actually be the center, the initiating. Why should I care about him if he needs to fall back not even on friends, but as on like bad people? Again, personal preference. And actually most of my complaints about this book are falling back to personal preference, which keep that in mind, because I'm not saying these are inherently bad, just as me as a reader didn't like these things. So bleh. And I'm very willing to admit that. There are reviews I've done where I've attacked a book on a technical level. This is not that. This is me kind of doing a thematically this didn't work for me, more opinion-based review, because that's really all the complaints I have here. Jim Butcher is coming into form well. He's certainly not a practiced boxer yet who's in perfect form. I would trust him in the ring against most other authors. Overall, I'm keeping Dresden Files in my probably future top 10 fantasy books, fantasy series of all times list, and recommending y'all pick it up. It's good, and I'm hoping to watch it evolve into great. Thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And let me know who your favorite quippy character is, because Harry's kind of really amazing with his quips. I enjoy that so much about him, especially like the moments where we see his internal dialogue and we know he's like, oh, he thinks he's gonna die, but his last thing is just like, I'm gonna go out saying you, basically, in a clever, quippy way, and I enjoy that. He's just so determined to get the last word in. Anyway, have a good one, y'all. Peace.